The city was a beast, a concrete jungle with a million stories, and I was just another soul trying to hide. My last place ended badly. Sirens, flashing lights, memories I keep buried. This apartment was supposed to be a fresh start. Cheap, old and empty, just me and my regrets. The landlord handed me the keys. "Welcome home," he said, but the words felt hollow. I dropped my duffel bag, everything I owned, on the floor. This was my sanctuary now. But as the sun set and the city's noise faded, a chill crept in. Maybe this wasn't a new beginning, just another chapter in the same old nightmare. I tried to ignore it, I really did. I threw open the window, hoping the city's grime-filled air would chase the smell away. It didn't. The stench was stubborn, a permanent resident of my new home. It was a complex aroma, a foul bouquet. There was a metallic tang like old pennies mixed with something organic and putrid. It was the smell of death, but not a clean death. It was the smell of something left to fester, to spoil in the dark. It seemed to emanate from the kitchen, a malevolent cloud that grew thicker the closer I got to the ancient, humming refrigerator. I spent the first night on the floor using my jacket as a pillow. Sleep didn't come easy. Every time I drifted off, the smell would pull me back, a foul hand on my shoulder. It seeped into my dreams, twisting them into grotesque shapes. I dreamt of butcher shops and forgotten meat, of things crawling in the dark. I woke up with a gasp, the scent stronger than ever, tasting it on my tongue. It was as if the apartment itself was slowly rotting from the inside out, and I was trapped in its decaying heart. I started to think I was going crazy, that the smell was a phantom, a product of my own frayed nerves. The next day I bought bleach and ammonia, and every air freshener the corner store had in stock. I scrubbed the floors until my knuckles were raw. I sprayed pine-scented chemicals until the air was thick enough to choke on. For a few hours it worked. The chemical warfare masked the underlying rot. But as the artificial scents faded, the original stench returned, stronger and more defiant than before. It was laughing at me, mocking my futile attempts to erase it. It wasn't just a smell anymore, it was a presence, a statement. It owned this place. I pinpointed the source, the refrigerator, an old hulking beast of a machine, cream-colored and stained with age. It hummed a low, monotonous tune, a death rattle in the suffocating silence of the kitchen. The smell was pouring from it, seeping through the cracks in its sealed door. A cold dread began to pool in my stomach. What kind of spoiled food could create a smell this vile? What had the last tenant left behind? My hand hovered over the handle, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I was afraid of what I might find inside that cold, humming box. Night fell again, swallowing the apartment in an inky blackness. The single street lamp outside cast a weak, jaundiced glow through the window, barely pushing back the shadows. They clung to the corners of the room, long and distorted, moving with a life of their own. I sat on the floor, my back against the wall, watching them dance. The city's noise felt a million miles away. In here there was only the hum of the refrigerator and the suffocating smell. It was a tomb, and I was the only living thing in it, or so I thought. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. It was a prickle on the back of my neck, a sixth sense screaming that I wasn't alone. I'd catch a flicker of movement in my peripheral vision, a shape darker than the surrounding shadows. When I'd snap my head to look, there was nothing there, just the bare wall, the empty corner. But the feeling remained, a cold knot of anxiety in my gut. Was it just my mind playing tricks on me? The stress, the lack of sleep, the god-awful smell? It was enough to make anyone see things. I tried to reason with myself. It's an old building, I thought. The floors creak, the pipes groan. Every sound is magnified in the silence, but this was different. This wasn't the building settling, it was a presence. I could feel its weight in the room, its unseen eyes fixed on me. The air grew heavy, charged with the static electricity of pure fear. The shadow in the corner seemed to deepen, to coalesce, no longer just an absence of light, but something solid, something malevolent, something waiting. The hum of the refrigerator seemed to grow louder, a guttural drone that vibrated through the floorboards. It was the source of the smell, the source of the cold, the source of the fear that was now choking me. The shadow, the smell, the sound, it was all connected, all part of the same terrible secret locked away inside that kitchen appliance. My gaze was fixed on the refrigerator, a pale monolith in the gloom. I knew I had to open it. I had to face whatever was inside. The rational part of my brain screamed at me to run, to get out, to never look back. But I couldn't. I was trapped, a fly in a spider's web. The third night was the worst. Sleep was a distant country I couldn't reach. I was a prisoner in this stinking box, haunted by the relentless hum and the gut-wrenching smell. The refrigerator dominated the space, a silent, malevolent god. The smell was a physical barrier, a wall I had to push through. My reflection stared back, haggard and afraid. The not knowing was a special kind of madness, eating me alive. My hand trembled as I reached for the handle. The cold was more than just temperature, it seeped into my bones. The hum pulsed, a steady mantra of dread. I pulled the door open now. The smell hit me, metallic and rotten. My eyes dropped to the freezer. The hum was loudest there. My sanity hung by a thread, but I had to know. There was no turning back now. My numb fingers fumbled with the freezer latch, the door groaning open with a blast of Arctic air. Inside, not food, but human shapes, wrapped in black plastic, duct-taped, torn in places to reveal pale, frozen flesh. My mind reeled, refusing to accept the truth. These were bodies arranged with chilling order. The landlord's face flashed in my mind, his smile, the cheap rent, the words, "Welcome home." Then, from deep within the frozen tomb, a whisper, "Help me." My blood ran cold. One of them was still alive. My heart stopped, and it was talking to me. I tried to deny what I saw, but the freezer was a gallery of horrors, human remains packed with grotesque precision. Frost clung to the bag, stained with frozen blood, each ice crystal holding a memory of terror. Through a tear, a single lifeless eye stared out, accusing, pleading. I was now a witness, poisoned by the secret. The whisper came again, stronger. "Help me." The sound vibrated through the frozen mass, a faint tremor of impossible life. How could anything survive in this tomb? My hand, numb with shock, forced me to see the details, a macabre inventory of limbs and heads, wrapped and stacked with surgical precision. This was no frenzied crime, but a methodical craft, a butcher's art. The plastic stretched over bone, torn to reveal a rib cage, the cuts clean and efficient. The landlord's tradition echoed in my mind, a confession in plain sight. The whisper again, "Help me," from a package near the bottom. Was it a recording, a trap? No, it was too raw, too real. A soul trapped in a living hell, a nightmare with no waking. The landlord, Mr. Abernathy, his bland name now monstrous. He'd handed me the keys, his smile a curse. He knew. He curated this horror. This apartment was his showroom, the rent bait for the lost and forgotten. I fit the profile, a tenant who wouldn't be missed. The building itself felt complicit, a vertical graveyard. The whisper again, more insistent. "Please help." A woman's voice. I was no longer just a spectator. My inaction was participation. I had to do something. The voice came from a bag near the back, pinned beneath a heavy package. To reach it, I'd have to touch the dead to save the dying. My hands trembled, nausea rising, but I forced myself to move. I reached in, recoiling at the cold, unyielding flesh, nearly overcome by fear. Her voice faint, cold, not a plea, but a reality. It shattered my paralysis. I plunged my hands back in, grabbed the top package and heaved it out. The dead weight hit the floor with a sickening thud. I had made the first cut, now I had to see what lay beneath. The torso lay on the floor, a black, plastic-wrapped monument to butchery. I couldn't look at it. My focus was on the freezer, where a small, plastic-wrapped form lay curled in a fetal position. The black plastic was shrink-wrapped by the cold, revealing the outline of a child. Through the frost, I saw a faint, shallow breath. I had to get her out before that tiny flame of life was snuffed out. My hands clawed at the frozen bag, pain burning as I broke the icy seal. I heaved, adrenaline surging until the bundle came free. I held her, cold seeping into my core. Then, faint movement, a heartbeat, hope. I laid her beside the other, the frost melting, revealing a face, blue lips, closed eyes. She was alive. Now, I had to get her out. I needed to cut her free. My gaze darted around the stripped kitchen. No knives, no scissors, nothing sharp. Abernathy had made sure of that. I knelt beside her, desperate, my numb hands picking at the frozen duct tape, sealing the black plastic bag. Teeth, fingers, anything. I tore at the tape, fighting the cold and panic. Finally, the plastic split, revealing her pale, blue-tinged skin. Her ice-caked heart still beat, faint but alive. Finally, I tore away the last piece of tape. I peeled back the final layer of plastic from her face. The material, stiff with cold, cracked open like an eggshell. And there she was. Her face was a pale, waxy mask, her skin mottled and blue around her lips and eyes. Her hair, dark and matted, was frozen to her scalp in icy clumps. Her eyes were closed, her lashes frosted white. She looked like a porcelain doll that had been left in the snow, beautiful and terrifyingly fragile. For a heart-stopping moment, I thought I was too late. She was so still, so silent. I leaned in close, my ear hovering just above her blue lips. I held my own breath, listening, and I heard it. A tiny, almost inaudible puff of air, a breath, and then another. She was alive. Relief, so potent it almost brought me to my knees, washed over me. I had done it. I had freed her face from the plastic tomb. I gently brushed a piece of ice from her cheek, my rough, numb fingers clumsy against her frozen skin. She didn't stir. She was deep in some dark, cold place, holding on to life by the thinnest of threads. I continued tearing the plastic away from her body, working as gently as I could. She was dressed in simple clothes, a thin sweater and jeans, now frozen stiff and fused to her skin. Her arms were crossed over her chest, her knees pulled up tight. She had been frozen in a position of self-protection, a last, futile attempt to stay warm, to make herself small. I saw the dark, ugly bruises on her arms, the raw marks on her wrists where she must have been bound. Abernathy hadn't just put her in the freezer, he had hurt her first. The thought reignited the cold rage in my gut. I uncovered her completely, pushing the tattered remains of the plastic and duct tape aside. She lay there on my floor, a survivor of the impossible. I didn't know who she was or how long she had been in that icy hell, but I knew one thing: I had found her. She wasn't just a whisper from the cold anymore. She was a person, a responsibility. In the suffocating silence of that killer's kitchen, surrounded by death, I made a silent promise to the unconscious woman on the floor. I would get her out of here, and I would make the man who did this pay. The tradition ended tonight. I knelt on the cold linoleum, heart pounding. The woman beside me breathed weakly, a survivor in a house of death. I needed help, but a key turned in the lock. Abernathy. The hunter was back. My blood froze. There was nowhere to run. I grabbed the only weapon I could, a frozen torso. I hid behind the kitchen doorway, breath held as the door creaked open. He was coming in. The door swung open, casting a long rectangle of dim hallway light onto the floor. A silhouette filled the frame. Abernathy. He stepped inside, calm and unhurried, closing the door behind him. The room was nearly dark, lit only by the city's glow and the open fridge. He paused, a quiet predator sensing something was amiss. His gaze went to the open freezer. The torso was gone. "I was wondering when someone would finally have a look," he said, voice calm, chilling. "My father started this, and his father before him. We're caretakers. We preserve the forgotten ones." The invitation hung in the air, a death sentence wrapped in polite madness. I didn't answer him. My silence seemed to amuse him. He gestured toward the freezer. She was an experiment, an attempt to perfect cryopreservation, but every game has its rules. When a new player joins, the board is reset. I was the new piece. He smiled, predatory. The whole apartment was his weapon, the darkness his ally, but I held the one piece he didn't expect. The tradition was about to end, violently. The air in the kitchen was thick with unspoken threats, a toxic stew of madness and decay. Abernathy stood there, a smug monarch in his kingdom of filth, waiting for me to make my move. He thought he had me cornered, but he underestimated me. I held the frozen torso like a shield, a piece of his history about to be returned. With a roar, I lunged, driving it forward like a battering ram. The impact shattered his calm, lifting him off his feet. He gasped, agony and disbelief on his face. I was no longer the prey. The roles had been reversed. The house had not won, not tonight. I didn't waste another second on him. My priority was the woman on the floor. Her skin was like ice. I draped my jacket over her, desperate to fight the cold. I had to get her out of that tomb, into the light. I stumbled into the hallway, each step agony, but every step a little further from the horror. I burst onto the street, the city's noise now a symphony of life. A shiver ran through her. Her eyelids fluttered. The thaw had begun.